Hello and welcome to the complete guide to sumo deadlifting. So the sumo deadlift is where your feet go nice and wide and your hands go in between the legs. What we're looking to do is basically get our feet roughly shoulder and a half width apart, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It's going to depend on how we look in our bottom position, which we'll talk about in a moment. But basically what we're going to do, guys, we're going to line up to the bar. This time our feet are going to be ever so slightly turned out. What we're going to try to do here is have the toes and the knees point in the same direction while we go down. Now the sumo deadlift is predominantly a leg exercise, whereas the conventional is more 50% back, 50% legs. This one I would say is more 75% legs, 25% back. So we're going to try and use our legs as much as possible. The hands want to go inside. You want to go roughly shoulder width apart. We'll talk about grip in a moment, and we're also going to cover the back in a second. So with the feet shoulder and a half width apart and the hands down the middle, we're going to use our legs to come down to reach the bar. What we're looking to do here, guys, is push the knees out as far as we can to keep our hips nice and close to the bar. When looking from the front, the two shins should be vertical. So one more thing I would like to talk about is actually grip on the bar. So now we've established where the feet and where the hands need to go. There's three different styles of how we can hold on to the bar. So the hardest one being the double overhand grip. So this is where the palms both face behind. We take our thumb and fingers over the bar and grip from there. So this would be the most taxing, the hardest one. Requires a lot of grip strength, but it is also then great for building said grip strength. And what I would recommend for that is try to go double overhand for as long as possible. Build that added strength in the hands and the forearms. That's only going to help the other two grips when you start getting heavy. You don't really want to be missing a deadlift because your grip is too weak. The second one, and probably the most common one that you'll see, is a under-over grip or mixed grip. This is where one hand or palms will face forward and the second hand will face over. Basically what this does, guys, it limits how much the bar spins, okay? Bars are very slippy. If you're going double overhand and it starts slipping, it's going to roll out the hands. If we take a mixed grip, you have the bar secured one way and secured the other way. This way, the bar cannot rotate because you're holding on to it. So again, the ergonomics of the barbell come into play with this. This is the most common one. However, I would say have it with a side of caution, simply because if you have a favoured side, you can develop some imbalances in the lat. You can also stress that underarm bicep. There's been many tears of the bicep of the underarm. So what I would suggest is obviously keep on top of your bicep curls and also try your best to alternate grips. Now you're going to have a favourite, so when it comes to max out or heavy lifting, go with your favourite. However, if you can, try to keep switching it around to avoid any of those imbalances. The third one, I think becoming more popular, especially me as a weightlifter, this is the grip I prefer, and that is hook grip. And this is basically where we're going to use our thumb to act as the underhand grip. Yes, it does hurt. Yes, it does take some time to get used to, but you don't have any of the negative sides of the under-overhand grip or the mixed grip with this one, because again, you're going two over, and we're going to use our thumbs to stop the bar rolling one way. Basically what you're going to do here, guys, is take your thumb. It's going to wrap underneath the barbell. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, so it'll come under this like so. Your index finger and your middle finger will wrap over the top of it, leaving the knuckle free. And then the ring finger and pinky finger will hold onto the bar. So what I'm doing here is again securing the bar left to right by using my thumb. Like I said, it does hurt, but I personally believe it is the better one out of the three. So deadlift gets a lot of stick for being a high risk movement, and in fact if you are going heavy, it probably is one of the high risk movements. Main common injuries are going to be something related to back pain. Now it is important that we keep a neutral back, not an overextended back and not an over excessively rounded back. Those at the elite level may have some upper thoracic rounding, that's fine. They're at an elite level, let them do their own thing. But for most of us, we want to keep our back neutral. Now what I mean by neutral is, if you turn to the side, as if you're stood up we want the back to look exactly like this. So from the top of the head to the tailbone, we want to keep it looking the exact same. We don't need to overarch ourselves, and again, we certainly need to flex ourselves too much. So the goal when we're doing our deadlift is just to keep this back maintained. One of the big things we'll see is the upper back being rounded. That's fairly common. This is simply because you're holding onto the weight, and as it gets heavy, the chances are your shoulders will unravel. So keep those shoulder blades nice and back, again, maintaining this neutral spine. So we're going to come back down to that lower start position, and we're just going to talk about the setup just a little bit more. So once we've established how wide our feet need to go by videoing at the front, again, shins want to be vertical. Hands go straight down the middle with your chosen grip, either double over, mixed or hook, whichever you had preference for. And we're going to sink ourselves down to the bottom. Now, just like any old deadlift, we do not want the knees to go over the top of the bar. So as you can see here, my knees are over the top of the bar. So I'd want to change that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply lift the hips up and shift my body weight ever so slightly backwards. You can use the bar to hold yourself as you pull backwards. Weight wants to be evenly distributed through the feet, and your quads should feel like they're working. The second you feel your quads start to flex is when you want to be pulling. You'll find this as you start to tip backwards. Now the reason why we want our shins vertical is because we don't want the bar pulling up the shin. Not only will it lead to potentially cut up shin, it also adds friction to the lift, so it's actually going to make the lift harder because of the friction of the bar rubbing against you. So you want to avoid that. The bar wants to stay close, but not too close. Now in terms of the first pull, a little bit like the conventional lift, it is all quads off the start. So again, we're going to get down into our position here. So in our start position, and we're going to use our quads. We're going to use the legs to push ourselves up, and again, once the bar gets to below the knee, we extend at the hips. This movement, as you can see, is a lot more legs than it is hip extension. The closer you can get your hips to the bar, the better. The shorter the pull is going to feel. So I'm going to break it down into two parts, the first pull and the hip extension. So as before, we're going to now take our shoulder and a half width grip, potentially shorter, potentially longer. Again, the way to figure this out is to video yourself from the front. Once you're in your bottom position, is the shin vertical? If it's not, then bring it in or take it out depending on how the knees and shins look. Right, so as mentioned, we're going to talk about that first pull. So we're going to take our setup, come down, grab hold of the bar, and off the floor to the knee is all quads. Once we've done that, we're now going to add in the hip extension to finish off the lift. Now, we want to think hips forward, not just stand up, okay? It's going to be a much more powerful movement. Think kettlebell swing, think vertical jump. Its crossover is going to be greater if we have that mental switch to think hip extension rather than just stand up, okay? So it's going to look a little something like so. So as you can see, breaking it into two parts here. And as you can see, it's a lot more legs than it is hips. Things to look out for here is that the knees don't wobble too much. You want to keep them pushed out as much as you can. This is why you'll feel it in your glutes a lot more than a conventional. And we're trying to push the floor away as well. Again, shins want to be vertical pretty much the whole time until you're stood up with the bar. So I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments down below. Feel free to send me any videos of you lift for me to critique. But for now guys, I'll see you later. Take care. Goodbye.